If you ever stay the night at the Farnsworth Inn in Gettysburg, don't talk to the man in the Confederate uniform, no matter how real he looks. Don't open room 6 under any circumstance. It's been nailed shut for a reason. And if you hear something dragging chains at precisely 3:17 a.m., hide in the laundry chute. I was hired to run the night shift here, but no one warned me the ghosts never check out. The letter came with no return address. Thick parchment, yellowed at the edges, and sealed with a wax insignia I didn't recognize. 2 crossed muskets over a skull. I found it shoved under my apartment door one night after I'd returned from another miserable graveyard shift at the scrapyard. Inside was a short note, typed on a typewriter of all things. Your application has been approved. Report to the Farnsworth Inn, Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, midnight. Ask for Miss Evelyn. Wear black. Do not bring a cell phone. And above all, follow the rules. Sincerely, management. I hadn't applied for anything, but the envelope had 5 crisp $100 bills in it. Rent was overdue. My fridge was empty. I didn't have the luxury to ask questions. Arrival at Farnsworth in the drive to the Farnsworth Inn was foggy, literally and figuratively. An eerie mist rolled along the winding Pennsylvania roads like it was alive, clinging to the asphalt, muffling the sound of my tires. The GPS cut out 3 miles before my destination. My phone showed no service in a place where the stars seemed too close and the silence too deep. When I finally pulled into the gravel lot beside the inn, I nearly turned around. The Farnsworth Inn looked less like a hotel and more like a funeral home. 3 stories of colonial brickwork, dark green shutters, and a wraparound porch sagging under the weight of time. All the windows were unlit. No welcome sign. No life. But the front door creaked open slowly, as if it had been waiting for me. Inside, the air was impossibly cold that a tall grandfather clock ticked loudly in the main lobby, but the second hand never moved. Portraits of stern-looking men in Civil War uniforms lined the walls. A musky odor of mildew and pipe smoke hung in the air like an old curse. Then she appeared. Miss Evelyn. No last name. A woman in her 70s, perfectly upright, dressed in Victorian, black with a lace veil. Her voice was soft, but each word cut like glass. You're late, but the house has accepted you. Come. The rules. She led me into a side office, dimly lit by gas lamps, and handed me a leather-bound operations manual, no bigger than a pocket Bible. On the cover, Midnight Supervisor Duties. She spoke as I flipped it open. This is not a job. It is a guardianship. These are the rules. Obey them, or you will. Feed the house. There were 10 rules, printed in old serif font. I read them aloud in my head, feeling the weight of each one sink into my bones. Scroll the rules of the Farnsworth Inn, Midnight Operations Supervisor Edition. Clock in at exactly 11:59 p.m. Not before, not after. Never turn off the gas lamps in the east hallway. If they extinguish on their own, leave them. Do not relight them. Avoid looking at room 6. If the door is open, close it. If it is closed, do not open it. Ever. At 1:12 a.m., a man in a Confederate officer's uniform will appear in the lobby. Do not engage. Do not speak. Do not make eye contact. Do not enter the basement. If you hear voices from below, pretend you didn't. At exactly 2:47 a.m., someone will knock on the front door 3 times. It is not a guest. Do not answer. Check the ledger every hour. If a name appears that isn't a current guest, cross it out immediately using the red ink. Not black. Not blue. If you find footprints made of ash leading toward room 6, sweep them away while humming Amazing Grace. You must not stop humming. At 3:17 a.m., something will drag chains across the 2nd floor. Do not go upstairs. Do not acknowledge the noise. Clock out at 6:06 a.m. If you miss the time, you stay until another takes your place. One soul for another. I blinked at her. Is this some kind of prank? I asked, voice shaking. Miss Evelyn smiled, revealing teeth too white and too sharp. You'll see. The first night at exactly 11:59 p.m., I placed the antique punch card into the clock. It clacked loud, and something shifted in the floor beneath me. Like the inn had taken a deep breath. The place was silent except for the ticking of that unmoving clock and the creaks of age-old wood settling. I wandered the lobby with my flashlight, the beams barely piercing the heavy shadows. I passed the east hallway and paused. The gas lamps there were lit, dim orange flames dancing inside glass domes. Rule 2. Never turn them off. But one of them flickered, then died out right in front of me. I froze. Should I relight it? I reached into the drawer at the check-in desk, pulling out a box of matches, and paused just inches from the lamp. Something in the glass was moving. Not a reflection, not a trick of the light. A face. Pressed against the inside of the lamp. Screaming. Melting. Silently begging me not to touch it. I dropped the matchbox and backed away. 1:12 a.m. The soldier. Arrives. The front door creaked open on its own. I turned in time to see a figure walk in, straight-backed, dressed in gray Confederate officer's garb. His boots thudded softly as he walked to the lobby chair and sat down, hands folded. His skin was pale, sunken, rotting. He didn't blink. I stayed behind the counter, trembling. He looked at me. Is there vacancy, boy? My breath caught in my throat. Do not engage. Do not speak. I looked down. Pretended to read the ledger. He stood slowly. You look like him, he whispered. A gust of cold air surged through the room. He was gone. 2:47 a.m. The knock. 3 loud knocks shook the entire front door. I stayed behind the desk. Rule 6. The knocks came again. Louder. The glass in the windows vibrated. The portraits on the wall tilted. Then, a voice. A woman. Crying. Please, please, it's cold. Let me in. I clenched my jaw and shut my eyes. The crying turned to growling, then silence. When I opened my eyes again, the lobby was littered with wet footprints, leading toward room 6. Room 6 opens. The door was ajar. A low, sickly breathing echoed from the darkness inside. Something metallic glinted, chains dragging slowly on hardwood. I wanted to run, but my feet wouldn't move. Instead, I picked up the broom and a hymnal from the shelf behind me. Rule 8. Humming Amazing Grace. Through clenched teeth, I swept the ash prints away from the hallway. From the darkness inside room 6, something whispered, Stop humming, and I'll show you what you really are. I hummed louder, nearly choking. On panic, when the final print was gone, the door slammed shut so hard the walls trembled. The ledger changes at 5 a.m. I opened the guest ledger again. There, written in red ink across the bottom, Jackson Weiler, check-in, pending, room 6. I never wrote that. I don't even know a Jackson Weiler. My hand moved on its own, grabbing the red fountain pen and scratching the name out. The moment the last letter vanished, something screamed upstairs, and the clock on the wall began to tick again. 6:06 a.m. Escape. I punched my card and fled through the front doors. The sunlight had returned, weak but real. Miss Evelyn stood outside, watering dead flowers that hadn't bloomed in years. The house likes you, she said, without turning. Come back tomorrow. Same time. I wanted to say no, but when I reached my car, the keys weren't there. I in the ignition. A folded note sat where they used to be. One soul for another. You're the supervisor now. The next day I did everything I could to convince myself not to go back. I searched the Farnsworth Inn on Google. Nothing came up. Not a single listing, review, or even a historical reference. Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, had hundreds of haunted tours and Civil War sites, but this building? It didn't exist. Not even on Google Earth. My car still wouldn't start. My phone wouldn't dial out. And even when I tried to Uber somewhere, anywhere, the app crashed every time I entered a new address. It was like the world was forcing me back. And when the clock hit 11 p.m., my front door unlocked itself. A thick envelope slid under the threshold. Inside it, my punch card and a note. Clock in, or someone else pays for your absence. There was a picture inside. My brother, tied to a chair, a blurry figure behind him. Room 6, door open in the background. I grabbed my coat. Back to the inn. 11:59 p.m. The moment I slid the punch card into the clock, a scream echoed from the second floor. Miss Evelyn was waiting in the lobby, holding a mug of something that smelled like blood and cinnamon. You broke Rule 10. You left before your replacement arrived. I wanted to scream at her, to grab her and shake the answers out. But the moment I opened my mouth, my throat locked. I couldn't speak. At all. She smiled again. That same too-sharp grin. The house has silenced your anger. Good. It's time you knew what you're guarding. The whispering ledger. I walked over to the desk and opened the guest ledger. There were new names. Madeline Thorne, room 3, checked in, 1902, Joseph K. Room 5, checked in, 1898, U room, pending, Status. Processing. The last one made my stomach drop. You. Why was I in the ledger? Before I could think, the words began to rearrange themselves. You. Room 6. Check-in. 3:17 a.m. I stepped back. That was the chain-dragging hour. The moment when Rule 9 came into effect. Midnight guests tonight. I had 2 guests, real ones. A couple from New Jersey. Young, arrogant, TikTok types. They walked in holding hands, oblivious to the suffocating energy around them. "Hey dude," the guy said. "Is this the place from that viral ghost hunting video? The one where the lady vanished in room 6? I blinked. "We want to film an overnight here," the girl said, chewing gum. "We'll pay double if we can get that room." "No," I said, my voice barely mine. "Room 6 is off limits." They laughed like I was joking. They insisted. They begged that I held the keys behind my back and muttered, "You can have room 2 or you can leave." Reluctantly, they agreed. 1:12 a.m. The soldier returns just like before. The Confederate soldier walked in. Only this time, he spoke directly to the guests. "Have you seen my men?" he asked the boy, stepping close. "Bro, your cosplay is wild." The boy chuckled. The soldier's face twisted into something black and hollow, like burning coal that he whispered something in the boy's ear. The boy froze. Pale, his eyes glassy. "You okay?" I asked. The boy didn't respond. That he walked, zombie-like, up the stairs, toward room 6. I leapt over the counter and grabbed his arm. "Stop. Not that way." He turned to me, eyes wide. "I'm already in there." He slipped free and vanished. Up the staircase. 2:47 a.m. The knock returns. 3 heavy knocks. Then 4. Then 6. I didn't move. My heart thundered in my chest. Outside, a woman's face pressed to the window. Her lips were torn off. Her eyes were missing. But she smiled. "Let me in. I have a reservation," she screamed. Glass cracked. The door bulged. The walls groaned. From upstairs, I heard footsteps, someone dragging something. Room 6's door creaked open. Room 6, unsealed. I climbed the stairs like each step weighed 100 pounds. The hallway was dark. My flashlight flickered to the end. Room 6 stood wide open. The air was thick with rot and sulfur. Chains littered the floor. Black mold formed symbols on the walls, strange, shifting runes that crawled like insects. The TikTok boy stood inside the room, frozen, eyes wide. "Do you see it?" he whispered. It's me." I followed his gaze to the mirror. There were 2 of him. The reflection smiled, then stepped out of the mirror. It grabbed the boy by the neck and yanked him inside the glass. I lunged forward, but it was too late. The mirror was now cracked and empty. Only his phone remained on the floor. The rules shift back in the lobby. I opened the ledger again. The rules were no longer printed on a card. They were burned into my skin. 10 new marks across my chest, each one bleeding faintly. Miss Evelyn appeared beside me. "You broke 2 rules. 2 marks. If you earn all 10, you become part of the inn." I looked at her with trembling rage. "What is this place?" I asked. "What are you?" She knelt beside the ledger, her eyes growing black. "I was the supervisor before you, 116 years ago." She opened her mouth wider than any human should be able to. Inside, dozens of hands, reaching, grasping, clawing. "The house feeds on time, and you're already digesting." 3:17 a.m. Judgment hour. Chains rattled. Room 6 boomed shut on its own. I tried to leave, but the exit was gone. Literally, no door. Just endless wallpaper. The floor stretched. The furniture rearranged. Time collapsed. And on itself, the walls whispered my name. Supervisor. Custodian. Sacrifice. A burning figure emerged from the shadows, made of ash and fire and eyes. It reached toward me, placing a finger on my forehead. At a memory I didn't recognize burst in my mind. Me, as a child, drawing pictures of this inn, of room 6, before I'd ever been here. This place had chosen me long before I was born. I collapsed to the floor, sobbing. 6:06 a.m. Reset. The wall where the door had vanished now blinked back into existence. Outside, daylight. A fog-covered sunrise. My car keys hung from a nail labeled "Return TO form." I limped outside, my skin burned, my chest marked with 2 bleeding rule scars. Miss Evelyn was gone, but on the porch swing, a child sat, holding the TikTok boy's phone. watching the footage he had filmed before vanishing. She looked at me, smiling sweetly. Do you want to see what really lives in room 6? I didn't sleep after the second shift that I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the boy's reflection being dragged screaming into the glass, and the door to room 6 slamming shut with the sound of nails being driven into a coffin. My chest still burned, 2 rules broken, 2 bleeding marks that wouldn't heal no matter how many times I bandaged them. When I showered, the water turned black. When I looked in the mirror, my reflection blinked slower than I did. And at exactly 11 p.m., my front door unlocked itself again that I didn't need a message. I didn't need a threat that I was already owned. Back at Farnsworth Inn was waiting. Same creaking porch, same dead flowers in the planters. But tonight, the lights were already on inside. That had never happened before. I stepped through the front doors, and the moment I crossed the threshold, I felt it. Time was wrong. The grandfather clock was ticking in reverse. The ceiling fan spun counterclockwise. Even the gas lamps flickered in rhythmic Morse code, almost like a heartbeat. And behind the counter, not Miss Evelyn. A tall, bald man in a blood-stained tuxedo stood polishing a human jawbone that he looked up. The new supervisor. Meet Mr. Halperin. He never said where he came from. Just introduced himself with a slight bow and a voice that was too loud for the room. I was supervisor number 3, 1892 to 1901. Before the inn began eating full memories instead of just names. Where's Evelyn? I asked. He smirked. Upstairs. Room 6 called her back. We all returned there, eventually. I didn't know what that meant yet, but I would. New rules in red ink. The ledger was open. And for the first time, a new page had appeared. A darker parchment, like burnt leather. Across the top, handwritten in red, tonight's addendum. Rule exceptions for supervisors who break the cycle. Below were 5 new rules. Freshly added. I read them out loud. Scroll addendum rules. Shift 3. Do not use the mirrors after midnight. Your reflection is no longer yours. If someone calls your name from room 6, do not respond, even if it's your own voice. You may access the records room at 2 a.m. You have 10 minutes. No light sources permitted. At 3:33 a.m., room 4 will open. Do not let the child inside see your face. If by 6:06 a.m. you fail to lock the mirror in room 6, it will keep everything it has seen, including you. There's a mirror inside room 6. I asked Mr. Halperin's expression darkened. Not just any mirror. It remembers. It reflects what you bury. You want to survive your 3rd shift? Don't look into it. And whatever you do, don't speak to her. Who? He didn't answer. He just vanished. Literally. Turned into smoke and drifted into the vents. Midnight. Reflection problems. The bathroom mirror behind the front desk fogged up on its in hot water. No one inside. Words appeared in the condensation. You were here before. I stepped closer. The mirror didn't reflect me anymore. It showed a younger version of me, maybe 10 years old, standing at the edge of the inn's porch, crying, holding a lantern. How long have I known this place? I whispered. The child me mouthed something in return. Run. And then the mirror shattered from the inside out. 1:45 a.m. Voices. From room 6 from upstairs, someone called my name. Jackson. Soft. Familiar. Then again. Jackson, it's me. It's your brother. I'm in here. Please help me. I nearly ran. But rule number 2 tonight was crystal cleared. Do not respond. Even if it's your own voice. That I stayed frozen behind the check-in desk. The voice grew louder, angrier, until finally, it said, we were here before, Jackson. You brought us. And now you're going to bring more. 2 a.m. The records room. I found the hidden key behind the ledger drawer. Small, rusted, still dripping something cold. The records room was behind the fireplace. Inside, hundreds of guest books, ledgers, punch cards, and pages written in ink and blood. Some dated back to the 1700s. And one dusty file folder with my name on it. Jackson Weiler. Entry attempt. 1999. Denied. Wait. I was 7 in 1999. Inside was a photo of me as a child, standing on the same porch from the mirror, crying, holding a lantern, the same one from the reflection earlier tonight, written across the bottom. Rejected. Supervisor too young. I wasn't new here. I had been chosen before. 3:33 a.m. Room 4 opens. The door creaked open. Inside was a child in civil Wore clothing. His face was blank, eyes pure white, skin like wet porcelain. He was holding a stuffed rabbit made of hair. Human hair that he walked toward me. I looked away, covered my face. "Do you know where my daddy is?" he asked. I said nothing. "You look like him." He placed the rabbit on the desk and left. Just like that, without touching me. The moment he vanished, the rabbit screamed. Loud, like a dying animal. I threw it in the furnace. 4:00 a.m. The mirror in room 6. I didn't want to go, but the final rule was clear. If I didn't lock the mirror before dawn, I wouldn't be leaving. I climbed the stairs with the silver key Mr. Halperin had left behind. Room 6 had changed again. Tonight, it was a child's room. Old wallpaper, cracked toys, a broken cradle, and the mirror standing at the far end. Oval, gilded in black iron, rotating slowly on its own. Inside it, a woman stood, long black dress, veil covering her face. She whispered, "You left us here." I stepped closer. "Who are you?" She lifted the veil, and I saw my mother's face. Only, she'd been dead for 6 years. Her mouth moved, but the voice was wrong. Not hers. Something deeper. "You made the pact when you were a boy. One night, here in 1999. The lantern. The rhyme. Don't you remember, Jackson?" I didn't. I tried to step back, but my feet were planted. My reflection was moving without me now. Smiling. "You're not guarding this place," it said. "You're fueling it." The mirror cracked. I shoved the silver key into its base. Turned. The glass sucked inward like a vacuum. My reflection vanished. The woman screamed. 6:06 a.m. Almost too late. I punched my card at 6:06 and 1 second a.m. 1 second late. The machine didn't stamp it. Instead, it hissed a single word across the display. "Stay." But the doors opened. The sun peeked through the fog. Outside, everything looked normal again. Until I checked the back of my neck in my car's side mirror. A third mark had appeared. This one was pulsing, not just bleeding, beating. I didn't go home after shift 3. There was no point. My apartment had become a revolving door of hallucinations. The mirror in the hallway wouldn't show me unless I stood perfectly still. The fridge hummed at 3:17 a.m. every night, whispering, "You're still inside." And worst of all, the punch clock followed me. It sat on my kitchen counter when I returned. Same wood grain, same brass slot, still ticking, except the hands spun wildly backward, making a sound like bones cracking under pressure. I drove. No plan, just drove, but every road led back to the Farnsworth Inn. Every GPS pin rerouted, until my tires hit the same gravel path, and I saw that cursed brick building through the fog once more, waiting for me, like a predator pretending to be asleep. The lantern light flickered on the porch. That meant someone was still inside. 6:66 p.m. The forbidden Hori didn't even know that time existed. But when the inn's grandfather clock struck 13, it rang 6 times, then 6 more, and finally a final, long, drawn-out chime like a funeral bell melting in fire. Miss Evelyn was back. Only, she wasn't quite human anymore. She stood on the porch, dressed in black lace soaked in mold and rot, her eyes stitched shut with piano wire. She didn't speak. She just opened her mouth, and something else spoke through her. "Supervisor Weiler, room 6 is ready for you now. No more clocks. No more rules. You are the final offering. The true rules, carved in bone inside." The lobby was changed. Burnt wood. Blood on the walls. The gas lamps pulsed like lungs. On the counter lay a human femur, sharpened to a point, with words carved into the marrow in a language I could barely read. I traced them with my fingers and felt heat. The true rules, the ones that cannot be broken. The house chooses the supervisor. Before they are born, room 6 is not a room. It is a door, and once opened, it must always be watched. Each supervisor feeds the house with 5 souls, 1 per shift. If the cycle is broken, the house bleeds. And when it bleeds, it remembers. When 10 marks are carved into your flesh, you become the next door. I had 3. 7 more, and I would become room 7. Into the walls I passed through. The east hallway, now twisted with roots and bones. The gas lamps were broken. One swung violently from the ceiling, its glass dripping a black liquid that hissed when it hit the floor. From the walls, I heard sobbing, then laughter, then a child's voice saying, "Don't go in there, Jackson. You'll let him out." But I had no choice. The ledger was gone. The clock was gone. The inn was now in freefall. At the end of the hall stood a door I'd never seen before. Supervisors only. Scrawled in chalk. The handle was warm, beating like a pulse. I opened it and walked into a memory. The pact. 1863. Suddenly, I was barefoot, standing in wet grass. The smell of smoke and gunpowder filled my nose. Across the hill, the Battle of Gettysburg raged. Muskets, screams, torn flesh to eye. In front of me stood 6 men in Confederate uniforms, one holding a burning book, the others holding hands in a circle, chanting in an ancient tongue. One stepped forward. Colonel Nathaniel Farnsworth, we offer you this land, this house, this blood, he said to the sky. Spare our lives, and we will feed you forever. A black crack opened in the earth beneath them. Smoke billowed. Hands reached out and dragged one man into the pit. The others just smiled. The birth of the inn. The house was built over the crack, brick by brick, bone by bone. The first supervisor? A young boy who watched his parents disappear inside room 6. That boy? He looked a lot like me. No, it was me. You volunteered, Jackson, the boy said from across the void. When you were 7. You just didn't remember. But you lit the lantern. You said the rhyme. You made the deal. Tears poured down my face. I had done this. I had opened the door. The rhyme, he recited it again, his voice soft as dust. Mirror deep behind the door. Let the house drink one soul more. Chain the time and break the day. Let room 6 never fade away. I remembered saying it, whispering it. One summer night, in a house my family had visited when I was 7. The Farnsworth Inn. The final shift begins at 3:17 a.m. The entire inn began to scream. Walls bled. The chandelier above the lobby fell and shattered like ice. Room 6 opened by itself. Inside, a mirror, broken, bleeding, and inside the glass, my reflection. But this time, it wasn't mimicking me. It stepped out, whole, solid, smiling. You've been the supervisor long enough, it said. Now it's my turn. It lunged. The fight for the door. We fought across the second floor, through room 4, down the halls. I broke chairs over its head. It tore through walls like paper. It whispered as it attacked. Let me take over. You don't want to remember what you've done, but I do. You're not me. I spat, slamming its face into a wall. I'm the better version, it hissed. The one who doesn't cry. The one who finishes the job. It grabbed me by the throat, lifted me. This house wants 10 marks. You've given it 3. I'll give it the rest. Then, bang, I drove the sharpened femur into its chest. It screamed, crumbled, and bled black oil that spelled my name across the floorboards. Locking the door, I staggered to room 6 that used the mirror key. Spoke the rhyme backward. Away fade never 6 room. Day the break and time the chain. More soul 1 drink house the let. Door the behind deep mirror. The mirror hissed, cried. The door slammed shut with a thunderclap. And then silence. 6:06 a.m. The inn. The sun returned. Miss Evelyn's body hung from the chandelier like a broken marionette. Mr. Halpern's portrait in the hallway crumbled to dust. And outside, real people walked by. Tourists, photographers. The inn looked normal as if none of it had ever happened. Except I couldn't leave. The exit vanished again. The desk had a new sign. Management. Jackson Weiler. I turned. And in the mirror hanging on the lobby wall, I saw my own eyes watching me from inside the glass. Final rule. I opened the ledger one last time. 1 page remained blank, except for one line. You stayed too long. Now, you are the supervisor forever. Until the next child lights the lantern.